I'm lucky enough to be joined here today by Chris Thomas, our photographer here at TaylorHedley Property. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Chris, I just wanted to ask you a few questions around some of the mistakes and some of the success stories that you actually see when photographing homes for the market. So what are common, I guess you would say, mistakes you see that not only photographers, but also the potential vendor who's presenting the home for sale make prior to a photo shoot?
I would probably say less is more as a bit of a mantra. I think if you can scale the amount of things that you have in the house down to a livable minimum, I think you don't want to have too much, you don't want to have too little. So I think that's probably one of the main things, I think.
And you've been exclusively photographing homes now for the last 5 years before that corporate events. How have you seen the industry innovate during that time in terms of some of the technology that's available to you?
I think we're just constantly fine-tuning the whole system. We're really we're doing dawn shoots, we're doing dusk shoots. We're getting the time pretty much precise, I think. We're seeing light, I think, a lot better. And just the whole process, I think, is getting quicker and, a lot more fine-tuned.
Now, I'm going to ask a question that I think is on every buyer's lips, because I come across multiple buyers that say to me, we saw the photos of this property online, we went to the property, and it just wasn't an accurate representation of what that property is like. So I'm going to hit it. It's a tough question to ask, but what's your take on Photoshop?
Yeah, so I studied photography about 5 years ago. We learnt that to get it right in camera first is really important. So I try and do that as much as possible. If there's a mark on some furniture or things like that, we can obviously take that out. But if there's a piece of furniture in the wrong spot, we'll just take that out. We have to keep it ethical. We have to keep everything pretty much how it is. We do Photoshop some things, but on the whole part, it's quite minimal. Yeah.
Sometimes our lawns might look a little bit greener, or you might be in a position where, if something's obstructing, let's say a boat out the front, and we need to make that change. But removing something like, let's say we're talking about power lines or a neighbour that might be a less desirable home, that's taking the process too far. And I find from a sales agent, the first firm that I ever worked for, they had incredible photos, but one thing that they did do was that they probably over-edited them, and buyers would come through those properties and immediately you would lose credibility with those buyers, because they'd be like, well, this is not the property that we saw in the photos. In the photos it had a hole, in the photos it looked perfectly painted, but in real life it's got a hole in the wall. So those sort of things, and I think we've got that balance down.
I think we're nailing it.
So when it comes to photo shoots, roughly sort of what time frames are we looking in terms of how long would a photo shoot go for? You spoke about getting it right through the camera first, so therefore that's going to take a little bit longer, right? Because you're going to be moving things around. You're going to be there with a sales agent. We always have one of our members of staff there to help you in that process. So what would your standard photo shoot look like?
2 to 2.5 hours, sometimes 3. And basically playing the schedule by ear. If the sun's streaming in and it looks great, we'll shoot it. But sometimes the sun streaming in doesn't look so great. So we'll kind of adjust it, maybe do the floor plan first and then do all the photos. But we're shooting it in a very dynamic part of the day where it can be a lot of light, then really soft light. So we can pretty much pick and choose what light we want for that particular room. So I think, as I said before, I think we're really fine-tuning those things and getting the right times for each room, yeah.
One thing that I've seen progress in real estate photography in recent times is just the fact that everything appears to be in focus, right? So you're in a position where if you're taking a photo of a property, we're seeing that, you can see outside, you can see inside, it's light, it's bright. There is a process around that. Do you mind talking the viewers through?
So generally, we're not just taking one photo. We'll take between 3 and 7 photos. We like to expose for what's through the window and then all the way through to the darkest point in the room. Then we can put all those images together, if you will, and come out with a nice balanced image where the whole room is visible. And I suppose that's probably where some people do think that they may be deceived, but at the same time, we're showing the whole room for what it is in its best light. So, and that's what we want to do. It's like selling your car. If you're selling a car, you want to wash it and make it look immaculate and photograph it in its right light. And that's pretty much what we're doing with the homes.
So when it comes to real estate photography, obviously every property that hits the market generally has professional photos. And I hear it all the time that, this agent does professional photos. What makes a photographer in the real estate space stand out?
Obviously the right equipment, the right team. I've got good editors that have a really good turnaround time, so we get the photos back very fast. It speeds up the whole process. I think having there are homes that are staged, but sometimes that's not the case. And I think we have to have that eye to say this should be there or that shouldn't be there, and move things accordingly. The time of day obviously comes into it again. Like if we need to photograph it at a specific time, sometimes we don't get that opportunity, so we have to kind of make do and run with it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we do that's not just taking a photo. That's really important. I think that sets us as apart from others.
One thing that we often see is that photo day in so many ways can actually be quite inconvenient, because if you're there at this time or that time, sometimes we shoot them at 5 a.m. in the morning. But the reality is these are the photos that you're stuck with for the duration of your campaign. And we always use the terms, you do not want to leave any stone left unturned, and don't want to fall back and be in a position where you think it's the reason your property hasn't sold for a premium figure. So going that extra mile on that day to make sure you come out with a really good product is the most important thing.
It is. And I mean, sometimes we'll do multiple shots of a specific room just so we've got that. If we need to rotate a photo or something like that, we've got those extra images that can help the sale go through and things like that. So
yeah. And not just on photos, Chris, your skill set goes beyond that. You also you do a lot of drone work for us as well, but probably more important is floor plans, right? So we attach floor plans on all our listings here at TaylorHedley, and you do a really good job of that. We sort of go for the 2-dimensional floor plans with the dimensions. Some agencies don't use floor plans, which you see. What do you think the benefit around that is in terms of floor plans?
I think people can visualize their furniture with the home. We also do a site plan so they can see how big the shed is, how far away that is from the home, things like that. Just get an idea of the whole layout. They can visualize it. I think if they use the floor plans, the site plan, and the photos together, it gives them a good idea without being there of how the property is.
Funnily enough, on the likes of realestate.com and Domain, we actually see that the floor plan is often the most viewed image, right? So we not only get high vision from captivating photos, but you're in a position where a lot of logical buyers will go straight to the floor plan. You cover both those bases, but
yeah, it's a large portion of the afternoon or the time that I'm there is spent on the floor plan and getting that right. Fans, stoves, dishwashers, all of that stuff. So it all has to be included.
Quite intricate.
It is. It's quite involved. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I have the pleasure of sitting down now with James from Zill Film Co. Thanks for joining us, James.
Thanks for having me.
James, you've been an accomplished videographer in the Newcastle, Lake Macquarie and Port Stephens regions now for quite some time. It's obviously one of the most innovative professions in real estate or associated with real estate. You sort of focus more on that property photography. Can you give me a quick overview about the properties that you believe videography works best on in our local area?
To be honest, video can work on many properties, from your higher end properties to even just your regular smaller listings, where the house might not be as captivating to the eye, but the lifestyle surrounding it is something that you can't really show off with photography. It's more so you have to show it with the video and show what's around, the parks, the cafes, the schools, and sometimes even just drone shot, just showing what's nearby and everything.
So it's about selling the lifestyle in general, and it does that very well because it brings those images to life. So they both have a place, photography and videography, but need to be high quality. And just on that high quality, I often see agents that do videography on properties, but then there's no back-end marketing behind it in the likes of social media, being Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is. So they're in a position where they're doing a great video, but it's not going out to a wide enough audience. What are your tips for people that are doing some back-end marketing behind their videography on the likes of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok? What works and what's going to captivate that audience?
Well, for our normal videos, we just do a 90-second video, which is a full tour, but we also offer an Instagram reel, which is a vertically shot reel, which is perfect for the agent, and it benefits the vendors as well. That will be used and be promoted. If you promote and put money behind an ad on Instagram, and you can target your direct audience, and yeah, social media is probably the way to go when it comes to that. And that vertically shot video takes up the whole screen opposed to the normal 16:9 video. And yeah, it's probably the best use opposed to just on realestate.com and etc.
I find myself bopping to some of the videos that you prepare with the music and how it all works together. So it's not a one component thing. Everything sort of merges in together to make that, a let's say, a more engaging clip.
Yeah. Like music, everything all comes together. And some properties, they need that fast pace video and cuts, whereas some are more mature and they need that slowed down for a more mature buyer. And we cater for whatever audience is really best suited for.
It's a marketing tool, right? At the end of the day, it's an area that has come a long way. It's obviously innovative, which we touched on before. But the only other question I have for you is that I rate you, and I might be a little bit biased, is the best videographer in the area. What helps inspire you to that next step? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Yeah, I was actually chatting to someone the other day about this. It's always about trying something different, watching everyone around Australia or other people that are doing videography, just learning and grabbing little things and ideas from them. And yeah, I think every property, it's good to maybe try something a little bit different, try a little, like recently I've gotten the tripod out and tried some like time lapses, just trying to bring everything together, like a little bit different techniques every time. And yeah, whether the agent's talking the video or not, you still got to usually drag out to that 90-second mark. So you got to think creatively and
change it up, give a bit of versatility, and give that
100%.
audience something worth watching. Well, James, once again, thank you so much for joining me, and we look forward to many more videos to come.
Thanks for having me.